Alright, this silicone has finally set, and it's time to apply the plaster. Now, what I'm going to do with this plaster here, I want to make sure, I want this to be as flat as possible. Whether I choose to make this a hollow casting or whether I choose to make it a solid casting, I still want the bottom side here, which this will be the bottom, this will be the side I'll be resting on. I want this part here, right here, to be as flat as possible. So I'm going to go along, I'm just going to add plaster like crazy. It's real thick and this will set up really quick. This is from a brand new bag, so I worry that this might set up a little quickly. And we're on the Lazy Susan again because it's just easier than bending around, considering I pulled my back this morning. I'm always wrecking my back. Every day I do something new and ridiculous and experience all new levels of pain. What a drag it is getting old. Wa-da-da-da-da-da. Now I do want the edge to be neat. As always, I want to try and keep it as straight and neat as possible. Now we're going to go along right here. We're just taking it right down. You can see how nice this is filling in. I mean, the bottom looks good. The bottom silicone mold looks real fine. It looks, from all outward appearances, it looks really, really nice. Now another thing I can do to ensure that this bottom section here is flat, I can attach a piece of wood to it, and if I have something available, I might just go ahead and do that. And I'll check the level with my carpenter's level, just make sure we're all good and that it's all level. But here we go. Now, as far as locking points, this little, where it dripped over a bit here, this will make a great locking point for the bottom part of the mold here. With this bottom half, this will lock right in. And just make sure I keep getting down in there. Right, like so. And again here, where the overlap was made, there's a little locking point. I'm going to make sure it goes right in there. And there's still a good thick coat of Vaseline on here. So there's a good separator in place already. I get the bottom, or I should say the top side of the knife, where it's flat, to help me create a flat surface here. And you want to press the plaster into itself. Each successive application, you want to make sure it's pressed into the one before it. All right. Like so. I'm going to look around real quick and see if I've got a board that I can use. Just something, anything. And, oh, that's got an odd shape to it, so that's not going to work. Alright, let me see what I've got here in the shop. I've got pieces of board all over the place. All over the place. And it's easier to put the level on a board than it is to mess it up in a plaster. Now here, for example, I want to even this up here. And this is starting to kick in already. It's starting to kick off. It's starting to go through its gel state, if plaster can gel or congeal. I want it good and thick. I want all the holes filled in. Any gaps, any openings. You want it all filled in, like so. Right along here. At this point, a spray bottle will be handy. A little spritz. And it'll help turn that into more like icing. See how smooth? It allows the plaster to be smoothed and really manipulated and shaped. And that's always a darn good thing. Now I will use rubber bands to hold this mold together right around the outside of the plaster, regardless of the method I use for casting, either rotational casting or solid. I'm thinking the first piece out of here is going to be solid, because we've had areas where silicone didn't fill in necessarily. So if it's a solid resin casting, I'll be able to shape those parts out with a Dremel using the natural skull as a guide, and I'll be able to get a real good casting for making a higher end silicone mold. And it'll be done similar to this. It will be done similar to this. Two-part, top and bottom. You know what? I don't think I need a board on here. Seeing as how this, sometimes spray bottles aren't worth the money you invest in them. That just happens to be an old one. I guess that spray bottle's about 10, 15 years old. Probably the water in there is just as old. I'm going to use a small level. This little guy right here. And it'll tell me, okay, we're going to come down this way. It needs to come down. Okay, now I need to bring this side down a bit. Okay. Let's see if we can buck that up a little bit here with some. I think this will help a lot right here. That'll help a lot right there. Just to add a little bit, just buck it up a little bit. Pretty good. And crosswise. Okay, well, crosswise. All right, let me use my larger carpenter's level here, my long plastic one that I've used before. See if this has any. Oh yeah, okay, we're level front to back here. Side to side, not so much. Not so much. So I'm going to take this water, spray it on top, and work this a bit. Like so. Scrape this away. Nope. All right, well, let's see if we're front to back. We're still good front to back. All right. I don't have a small board. Oh, yes I do. Yes, I do. I have a small board here. Don't know if I can secure this, if I have any decently wet plaster left in here. I said she's starting out, she's setting up. Oh, wait, here we go. All right, I'm able to soften some of this here. I think actually the better thing to do would be for me to make up, yeah, it's real crunchy. I think at this point it would be better to make up a small fresh batch of plaster and try and moisten this one. This one is finished. All right, here we go. This has set up pretty much. So what I'm going to do now is a little piece of silicone. I'm simply going to wet this down with a spray bottle. Let that soak for a couple of seconds. And then after I make a mess here. I've got a new batch of real creamy consistency plaster here. I'm going to kind of just model that onto the top of this. I want to create a bed for the board, a bed board. I'm not too concerned with this right here being level because the board goes in place, all right? And once the board is in place, I put the level on. We're level front to back. And I've got to make it level side to side. So, pardon my mug for being in the camera. Like so. Whoops-a-daisy. All right, don't move now. Stay, you crazy. Never mind a whoops-a-daisy. Very good, that's good there. And I'll check the little one. It's always good to use a couple of levels. This little one doesn't have as much weight behind it as the big one does. So it's kind of nice to use it from time to time. Now, I'm going to clean off the knife real quick. A couple of quick swipes on the container here, on the plastic container. I'm going to go along and I'm going to blend this plaster into the board and the plaster of the bottom of the mold. I want this in here really well. Okay, like so. And like so. I'm using a flat edge of the knife along the bottom of the plaster mold. That looks good. Even in my old tired eyes, that looks good. And we'll check the length again, lengthwise, I should say. Press down there. Very good. The bubble's centered. This is the only time I want a bubble to be present. I don't mind this bubble. This will sit level. Now I'm just speaking of level, I'm just going to leave the level in place and we're going to let this plaster set. All right. That is done and done, folks. Well, folks, it's the next day and we're going to demold the skull this morning. Just let it be known right from the start that this little piece of plywood here could eventually break loose from the plaster. Plaster is not really an adhesive, especially, you know, wood to plaster. It'll probably happen sooner rather than later for those of you, you know, who want to try something like this. If it does happen, you can either use super glue, or I would use either my Tech Bond or even my carpenter's, my woodworker's two-part woodworking epoxy to put this back in place. Just make sure that when you do, you reset it with your level. Okay? Great. Well then, here we go. First thing we want to do, well, that lifted away a lot better than I was going to say. You may need to get something in there to wedge it open, but obviously that's not the case. I'm going to put this down here on the work table. Now I'm going to get a modeling tool. I'm going to use my Jonas because it's not sharp or anything. I'm going to start prying the lower section away from the upper section of the mold. Well, we've got, oh boy, it's coming away really sweet. Oh, look at that. All right, let's do this nice and easy, gently, slowly. All right. going to go around the entire perimeter here. Make sure we get all the locking points unlocked. And sticking just a little, there we go. I remember there's quite a bit of coating of Vaseline on here, so I'm going to have to grab a rag as I go. Constantly wipe my hands off. As I will say, it's tough to grab the silicone. When it's slick with Vaseline, it really is difficult, to say the least. Come on now. Well, actually, the whole darn thing is lifting out of the plaster jacket. So I'm thinking we're going to go ahead and lift this out completely. Yeah, okay. Well, that worked well. All right. I'm going to put this down here on the work surface for a moment. And I'm going to move this off to the side here. And then I'm going to put this on the floor so I don't accidentally knock it off the table and break the only support structure this thing has got. And I'm going to work this away from the skull. Just going to work the silicone away from the skull itself. All right, so here we go. Let's get this thing going here. Now I'm going to get my finger in there, my thumb. I get all the way around. Lift this away as I go. And it is coming away beautifully. I hope you can see this on camera here. It's coming away beautifully. See? Right there. The silicone coming away from the silicone. That's exactly what I want. And we'll see how well this comes away from the skull. Obviously, it came away from the skull with no difficulty whatsoever. So we're good there. There's the lower half of the mold. Now I want to take this off. Now in order to do this, I'm going to have to cut the mold. And I want to loosen it first. Make sure it's free from the bone when it does finally lift off. Now where the cut will be made will be in here. Okay, it'll be made in the eye sockets along the edge of this rise of the orbital bone. So I'm going to get a scalpel. I'll change my glasses and I'll put on some stronger glasses so I can get close to this and see what the heck I'm doing. And I'm going to get my fine scalpel. I'll lift this up. I have to get close to it. I'll make sure I know where the vertical bone is, right here. So I'm going to cut slightly curved all the way through the silicone. I'm going to cut all the way through the silicone entirely. Or as they would say in airplane, we're going to cut through the silicone altogether. We're cutting through the silicone altogether. All right. Now I'm going to do the other side. Let's see here. I want you to be able to see this, and I need to be able to see this. All right. We're going in right here. Slight curvature. Right to the bone. Right back down into here again. And now this cut will be made along straighter. I want to see how this comes apart here. I need to make any more cuts. Yeah, I need to make a few more cuts in this. cut toward the bone here. And then come up, down like so. Along the bone, up towards me. Keep your thumb out of the way, John. Thank you. Scalpels will cut you deep. Like so. Cut. Make sure we're going all the way down. And going all the way down again. I want this silicone to separate from itself. There we go. Now, you see how it's coming apart? Okay. Okay, I'm going to have to clean this off. And when I come back, I'll put this back on camera. The Vaseline will be cleaned off. And I'm going to use some alcohol. All right, here we go. There we are. Perfectly done. Now we simply turn this over. Slide the horns down. Like so. Drop the skull out. Okay, pull the skull out. Here we go. There's the, ooh, it's really hard to focus on this puppy. But there's the skull mold. And here's our little friend. With him upside down like he is with the mold. Okay. And then right side up. And right side up. Now I think what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to pour solid casting. And not worry about rotational casting at this time. But the reason being that I want a solid piece to take out to make corrections on as need be. And to okay, here's front and back here. I just want a solid piece to make any corrections on that I want to make. And then I can make a proper silicone mold with a more high-end silicone. I'm just going to put the plaster parts around here to let them further cure. You see the little ridge here? Like so. Just like so. And that is so full of Vaseline, it's not even funny. I'll allow these plaster molds to dry for about a week. Thoroughly cure, thoroughly dry and set. Then I'm going to wash them off with first alcohol, some of the alcohol and detergent that I used to coat my hands. And then we'll be able to pour the first casting, powder the mold and prep it and pour the first casting. Pretty darn successful. I'm pleased.